Okay, I've got a package. I received a package in the mail from Anthony, and he wanted me to give my opinion on points that he had napped, or they're not all points. I'll show you in a minute. They're all in this bag. He also sent me some slate to work with. Nice, nice. I can grind some arrowheads. And I had never seen this color of red slate. Yeah. This is roof slate. These three on top here, and this one I'm not sure. I think this is floor tile slate. Alright, so I got some real slate to work with. Okay. Let's see what we got here. How am I going to do this? I'm going to do it a little at a time. It's going to be show and tell. Okay. I already looked at it. I cheated. There's some delicate ones in here. Alright, so we got different materials. All kinds of different stuff. So I'm going to look through this stuff, and maybe I'll re-nap some of them. This looks like percussion work. Yeah. Mahogany obsidian. There's chunks of stuff in here, flakes. I was looking at this one earlier. This one kind of makes me laugh because I don't know how you tolerate, Anthony. I don't know how you tolerated it being so curved, unless it started out that way and you just napped around it, or napped going with the flow. Yeah, I mean the ends are thinned down first, and then the middle is thick. This looks like Georgetown or something similar. It does look like percussion work. I'll come back to that one in a little bit. Yeah, just a bunch of worked pieces. This looks like Keokuk. A lot of new guys start with this. He's a new napper, in case you didn't notice. Yeah, not too bad on this one, except it's broken in half. Yeah, I got there's a lot of almond-shaped ones in here. But he mentioned that in his correspondence to me, that he's very good at making almonds. Yeah. This looks like a crescent blade, or the beginning of what could be a crescent. Keokuk again. Yeah, a lot of new guys, I was saying, they start with Keokuk because it's extremely easy to flake, but it's also extremely easy to mess up. So yeah, you can get strep fractures and all that kind of stuff on it very easily. So I mean, it's easy to flake, but not easy to nap, and I don't know if that makes any sense. Nap effectively, it takes some time. Oh yeah, this is some tough looking chert, snapped, although it looks a little bit ground down after the fact. Let's see, Dacite, well ground. I might rework some of these, but a lot of these are really thick. In order to get these thin, I'm going to lose quite a bit of width on them. Yeah, when I started Flintknapping, I wouldn't nap on stuff that thick. I would start with thin flakes and nap the thin flakes, and have many times a uniface where it was just the flake scar on one side and then chipped on the other. Like this one here. This is how I started, basically. Just chipping around the edges, and then eventually I was able to run flakes into the middle. Yeah. So it looks like he's doing both types of work. Thick pieces and thin pieces to start with. Little snappiola. This one got kind of thin. Yep. And there's an attempt at some shape here. He's from Pennsylvania, so He might have been going for a Madison or something like that. Lavana, I think, is another type similar to this. Bunch of Keokuk stuff. This is Keokuk. I don't know if it's heat treated. Yeah, this is Georgetown. This got the chalky cortex, which makes it a true flint. This one he had trouble with, for sure. I think I might rework this one. Yeah, just to show how to get rid of that square edge on something this clunky. Alright, so I'll put this one aside to work on. Once I get through this introductory show and tell, I'll rework some of these. How's that? This is Dacite. Dacite's also something new guys start with. I'm going to see if I can nap this down to a thin point. Keokuk. Georgetown. Where's the bottom? Is this the other half? No. Snappiola. Pretty common. I can see the aluminum deposit on that. Yeah. I'll nap this one too. Just so I can try to do what he was going to do. This is on a Dacite flake with a little snap. Snap tip. Yep, this is how you'd start. Best way to start on thin flakes, I think. Yeah, to try to start with clunkers like this is hard as a new person. So yeah, you can start with stuff like this. Just knock off the parts that are not going to be straight. Like you can knock this whole end off that way, and then you work the middle part here. Should I work this one on video? We'll see if we have time. See if I have time. This one looks like a tough piece of chert. Georgetown. I call it chert because it has a little bit of concrete in it. It's not. It's probably Georgetown. It's just low grade. Yeah, so it might nap well. Let's see. I got a Dacite here, very snappish. Dacite's not easy. Oh, I got some Obsidian, good quality Obsidian. He got reasonably far with this one. Yeah. Before the old classic snappiola on the tip. It's a controlled snap, so don't worry, alright? Yeah, don't worry. It's all controlled. Yeah, I can see a lot of struggle on this one here. There's a copper metal mark there. I don't know if he's doing this by hand with direct percussion or with indirect. This looks like direct percussion. Yeah, pretty typical little almond shape. This is one of the delicate ones I was afraid to maybe snap as I was dumping them out. Made on a flake. Yeah, it's just the problem is thinning. That's the problem. Everyone has the problem with thinning. I'm seeing turtleback after turtleback after turtleback. It's all turtleback stuff. So the problem is thinning. Well, there's something that is a little more advanced. A little notch in there. The edge work is not bad on this side. Not too bad. I've seen artifacts like that, so it's not bad. It's functional, except for the snap. Another slightly curved, probably made on a flake. Probably a lot of direct percussion. Indirect percussion will get you more accurate shots. Yep, another turtleback. Lots of turtleback stuff. You've got to be very aggressive to remove those. You can't just pick at it like this. It's a valiant attempt, but you can't pick at those. You've really got to hit hard to get those out of there. And you're going to break a lot. But you have to learn the limits of the stone. You've got to work right on the limit. You know, you've got to be risking breaking it with almost every hit. But once you figure out the limits of the stone, it won't be as risky. You know, you got to take a lot of risks in the beginning so you can know the limits. I don't recommend going too thin when you first start, but I do recommend breaking a bunch so that you can learn the limits of the stone. Yeah, lots of turtleback stuff, thinning issues, and keeping them straight issues. Yep. He might have started a lot of the arrowheads or a lot of the preforms down there, or the potential points, I should say, with stuff like this on flakes like this. This is actually a difficult to knap. If you're a new guy, don't try knapping these, because they didn't knap these very often back in the day. These were used as tools by themselves, utilized flakes, both in Europe and in the New World. You know, in the Americas, they use these just as is in most cases, because it's very difficult to get that ridge out. It's not worth the trouble. You can just use it as a sharp flake. Works as a knife. Yeah, the thinning is an issue on this one. Yeah, just a matter of practice to get these thinned down. Knowing the limits of the stone. Once you know the limits of the stone, you can start driving these powerful flakes on these small pieces. Yeah. Bunch of Georgetown. Bunches and bunches. Bunches of attempts. Nice. That's a nice stack. Very impressive. Yep. I am being sarcastic. Hopefully not too sarcastic. Yeah, I made stuff like this when I started. Yeah, very familiar issues. Very familiar issues. Stone is fragile and brittle. Yeah. You might say, really? I didn't know. And you would be sarcastic. And I get it, yeah. Of course, stone is fragile and brittle. The knappable kind. Yeah. It's not easy. If you're starting with flakes like this, I think he included these because he's starting with these kind of flakes. These are difficult for beginners. It's almost impossible for a beginner to get the hang of knapping these types of flakes. So I don't recommend them for beginners. Those are advanced napper flakes. Same with this. This is an advanced napper flake. You won't be able to thin it as a beginner. You know, you start with something already fairly thin. See, these are difficult to knap. Don't start with these. That's just my advice. You can start with these type, but don't start with one that has a very heavy central ridge. Yeah. There's some pressure flaking going on there. You can start with these, but don't start with this kind of stuff that's really thin on the edges and then really thick in the middle. These high ridged flakes. Start with this where it's got some meat on the edges so you can, you know, have something substantial to strike on to drive a long flake, or a deep flake to get rid of some of those turtlebacks and lumps. Yeah. See, I think what's going on is he's knapping the high ridge flakes like this, coming up with this kind of stuff. which is not bad for a beginner. But it's difficult to knap these. Now, if you want to know how to knap these, I'll do that one first. If that's all you got, if someone's sending you a bunch of stuff, or you're looking in debitage piles and that's all you can get, I'll show you how to reduce those. But it'll take some time to get used to it. I suppose you can just watch the video over and over again. Yeah, I have seen artifacts like this though too, curved. I've seen actual real artifacts in collections that are curved like this. Now, I don't know what they use them for, but they may not have been used. They might have just been beginner points. Oh yes, the quartzite. As a beginner, don't knap the quartzite. No, unless you're masochistic. All right. Yeah, and don't try napping this into a point when you first start. You can try this kind of stuff, but you know, find them that are a little bit straighter than this. All right, so we're gonna nap some to see how to overcome some of these obstacles. Hold on. Now, even though I've got a lot of experience, some of these are going to be difficult for me to nap. All right, so okay, that's what I get for trying to maneuver too much. All right, so this kind of stuff is what it looks like he's doing a lot of, or has a lot of these to work with. So I'm going to start with this. See what goes, see what happens. Let's see. I was going to say, see what goes down. All right, what do we got here? We got Keokuk very thin on the edges, very thick in the middle. This is hard for anyone to nap. Very difficult. So don't feel too bad if you can't nap these. Let's see. I had all my stuff put away when I went to my friend's house for that last hunting trip. I think you can tell when I'm napping out of his garage. Okay, so what I do is I'm regularizing the edge a little bit. This is a chalky Keokuk. It's not slick. Now, I think it might even be raw, which is doubly difficult. Yeah, so I'm just going to regularize, get rid of some of the delicate areas, which there are a bunch. You don't want to work with delicate areas. You want some meat on the edge so you can dry flakes. And don't worry about preserving length too much. As a beginner, everyone wants to make long, nice, well-flaked points, but it's better to learn how to get rid of the lumps first before you start trying to preserve length. Just my opinion. Yeah, so take down the length until you get a straight workpiece to begin with, and then try to maintain the straightness throughout the process. Now, if you don't know my reasoning for why I'm hitting in certain places, just look at the flakes that I get. Look at where the flakes are coming off. That is why I'm hitting there, because I want that flake to come off. That's the easiest way for me to explain it. If you see a flake Coming off. That's pretty much where I want it. And that's why I took the flake there. Because I wanted that flake to come off right there. Is it going to be exactly perfect every time? No. Am I going to get flakes that come off in spots that I really didn't plan on it? Yes. So it's not a perfect way to analyze what I'm doing. But it's close. Just look at the flakes that I removed. I removed them because I wanted to do it. That's my strategy. You just look at the flakes that got removed. Okay? Yeah. Why am I hitting here? Because I want to get rid of that. Why do I want to get rid of that? Because I don't like it. Yeah. It's not part of being a good preform. It's got to start looking regular. Yeah. It's got to start looking straight. You want to get it straight as you can to begin with, and then maintain the straightness. And if you don't know why I'm doing something, just look at the flakes I'm removing. So I don't have to explain everything. Because it's difficult to explain everything and try to be careful at the same time. Okay? Okay. Hope I made that clear. Now, do I have something in mind? Yes. Leaf shaped. Leaf shape is always what I've got in my brain. Leaf shape. That's what I have in mind. After that, I can make anything I want. If I get a leaf shaped workpiece done, I can make anything I want from it. So, that's what I usually have in my mind to start with. What's a leaf shape? Let's see. Leaf shape. Like a leaf. This looks like a willow leaf or something. Leaf shaped. Okay. So, let's see. The rule is hitting below center line most of the time. Do I always follow the rules? No. Thin the ends first. Attack the worst first. Those two rules I always follow, or try to. Thin the ends first, attack the worst first. If you can do two things at once, go ahead and do two things at once. This is actually not the worst, but it's the end. Okay, so I want to thin the end. I don't want that to pop off because it's got too much mass on it when I hit back here. Okay, I'm going to hit this into that area. I'm way above center mass, but the center line eventually is going to be there. All right, so this is technically below center line if I pretend the center line's there, but center of mass is lower. You can go by center of mass or center line. Center of mass is more reliable. So this is a little bit above center of mass, but I'm still going to hit it. Why? Because I know it's going to remove a flake there. I just don't know to what extent. So I had to hit it really hard. I know I'm going to have to hit it really hard. It's a really bad area. Let's see what happens. So I learned from that. I'm learning that it's going to take a lot more force to remove the next flake, because that one was fairly heavily hit. But I'm going to need to hit it harder to get it to go across the top. I hit it harder and it still didn't go across the top. Mainly because the platform probably was not strong enough. The edge was not strong enough to carry that flake to go across all the way. So I just keep trying from different angles and learn from that failure. It looks like the edge was not strong enough, so I'll make the next edge a little stronger. It's not going to be perfect. Let's see what happens. The reason why I don't make it perfect every time is because it takes forever. It takes forever, and I lose interest. If it's starting to take too long, I lose interest. And when I lose interest, I don't get it napped. I just go, put, next. And I'm opportunistic. I'll just wipe out some of the delicate areas and see what I got to work with, and maybe I can shoot another flake. See, I'm slowly chipping away at that mass. Slowly chipping away. But even though I have lots of experience, it's still not easy to get that flattened. I gotta look. Every time I hit, I learn something new about this particular piece of stone. And get the feel for it. Even though it might not be conscious learning, my subconscious starts to think, okay, hit a lot harder. Hit a lot harder. And how do I know my subconscious is thinking that? Because I hit a lot harder. Yeah. I'm hitting a lot harder. I can see that I'm hitting harder. I know I should be hitting harder within the limits of the stone. I kind of think I know the limits. I don't know exactly. I'm depending a lot on experience over time, over a long period of time. Okay. Would it be better if I use copper? Maybe. But you know me, I default to steel because it's low maintenance. Not because it naps the stone well. In most cases, steel is not that great. It's good on very, very hard stone. But it's just good. It's not excellent. And on delicate stone, it's actually not that good. But I can make the adjustment and do the best I can with it. And, you know, get reasonably good points using the steel. That's good enough for me. If I get reasonably good points with the steel, it's good enough. If I want to work the stone perfectly, I'll just have to be in that weird mood, because I normally don't like to work the stone perfectly. I lose interest. Yeah, it's like work. If I have to do it perfectly, it's like work. Who wants to nap that way? I don't. I just want to nap good enough. Good enough. Is it working? Is it good enough? Yeah. Did I eliminate all the step fractures at every step of the way? No. Am I achieving results that I want every single time I hit? No. Do I know the limits of the stone completely now that I've been napping it for, I don't know, 29 minutes? No. So basically, what you're telling me is you just hit it and hope for the best? Why, yes. So good of you to notice, Mr. Captain Obvious. If it's not obvious to you that I nap with the intent of doing good but hope for the best, then maybe you need to watch a little more closely. Yeah. Or change your observation perspective or something. It may seem like I'm getting the results that I want, but it's rare. it's rare that I get the results that I want. I get results that are good enough, or I'll live with the results I get. Now, in some instances, especially when it starts to get really thin, I've got to be very particular about where I hit. I've got to be very careful about where these flakes are traveling and start to think about, all right, this flake can only go in a certain spot. So whatever I need to do to get that flake done in that right way, yeah, I'll pay more attention. And it'll be more than just hoping for the best. Because once you start thinning down a thin piece, you've got to do a little bit better than hoping for the best. That's why I call it the sweat stage, because pressure's on. The pressure's on. I've got to try to do it the best way possible. Or hit it in such a way that I think the chance of success is going to be very, very good. So I try to get the initial conditions better than I normally do. But I can only nap that way toward the end, like a home stretch. Like I can't jog the race the whole time. I've got to pace myself. It's like running a race. You know, you pace yourself in the beginning, and then you can pour it on and be careful and all that jazz at the end. Yeah, but if I'm doing it the whole time, it just, it's too exhausting. Yep. It's like work. So I pace myself in the beginning. I live with what I got. I make do with what I'm getting, and then toward the end I really start to focus and try not to mess up and try not to break it. Everyone has their own style of napping. Very subtle differences. Okay, there are differences, and they're very, very subtle. Yeah, so this is good enough to start pressure flaking, and good enough to show you how I attack that type of flake. It's not easy because on some of those strikes I could tell I was getting to the point where at any time it could snap in half. I had to take the risk of snapping it in half by hitting it very, very hard. And it didn't go where I wanted it to go that time. It was good enough. I might still be able to get that step fracture out of there. Nope. So if I had left it in, it would have just... If I had just left the lump there, I could have completed it with the lump in it. But if I wanted to go further, I would have to take that lump out, and that was just too hard of a hit. Now it's a strange break, but it's probably broken because of that defect. That inclusion in the stone makes it weak. It's not an excuse, that's just the reality of it. That inclusion made it weak at that spot. Okay, so yeah, those can mess you up. You know, it's hard to see. You can't see it from the front or the back. It's just a little bitty speck from this view. Happens to be right in line with that fracture, the main part of that defect. Okay, but I think you get the idea on how I attack that. Let's attack this now, but we'll do it on the next segment. Okay, all right.